Good evening, and welcome to another cup of tea, another waistcoat, and another story from the Complete Griselda by Oliver Dickinson. This will be at least the fifth in my read-through of this anthology, and the story, tonight's story, okay, which I hope you are all sitting, is All in the Family. And this was first published in, let me see now, White Dwarf 51 in 1984. Okay, it's just a bit easier. Okay, so if you're sitting comfortably, or laying comfortably if you're already in bed, then I will begin. Now it comes on dark season and Pavis starts filling up. Some of the army gets in from the plains and light caravans arrive and adventurers and such come in from all over to take shelter from the weather, and there are plenty of strange faces everywhere you look. The dives are jumping with all the new business, and it takes regulars twice as long to get served, but there are opportunities to make a few lunas if you have any wits about you, so nobody's complaining too much except the authorities as they try to keep track of all the newcomers. Of course, anyone will tell them that this is a complete waste of time, for few of the newcomers will be around long, for either they will run out of dough and move to bad side, or they will go chasing some crazy scheme in the rebel, or they will lose a serious argument, or they will break the law some way and be shown the gate, or maybe executed. But the authorities are bound and determined to keep track of everyone, because this is just naturally the way authorities are. And so there are patrols everywhere asking you to see licences and so forth, but they do not bother me, for I believe in avoiding heats at all times, and do not do anything which the authorities will feel bound to ask questions about for years. It is not far into dark season when Griselda goes into the rebel with the trolls and comes back in one piece, which is considered quite a feat in many quarters. She stays in Pavis, and is seen frequently around loud arenas, which she seems to favour over other dives where you may expect to find adventurers, and we all get used to her presence, for she does not seem to wish to do anything but sit and talk and have a drink or two, and maybe get a crap game or some other betting proposition like most people I know in Pavis. For all I know, she finds this relaxing after her exertions, but she never relaxes so far as to leave her sword off, and nobody ever tries to kid her, or so far as to or touch her for a loan, or sell her a line more than once. For then she turns that on that stare of hers, and the air gets very cold, even for dark season. Well, one day she's sitting at a table speaking to various citizens, when this guy passes her on the way to the bar. Suddenly, he stops and gives her a great whack between the shoulder blades and cries, "What ho, Grizzy, long time no see!" We're all edging away, expecting to see mayhem break out at any moment, but she just turns about, grinning, and says, "Why, hello, Ferdie, what is bringing you here?" The guy goes all serious. "I hear our brother goes under around here, and I aim to do something about it. Do you hear this too?" Griselda grins even more and says, "Ferdie, I get here weeks ago, and I just finished doing everything about it that needs doing. One of these days you'll be late for your own funeral." "Oh, well, if that is what it takes to keep living, I will," says Ferdie. Now I'm here. You may as well buy me a drink and tell me all about it." It turns out that this Ferdie, whose full name is Ferdinand, is her baby brother, and while he does not seem in Griselda's class, he looks to have a fair bit of experience. He's a small, wiry guy, much darker complected than she is, and he has eyes that are forever switching about, taking everything in. And long, slim figures, I judge, may get inside many a pouch in the day. In fact, I never see someone who looks more as if he is trying to lifting whatever it is not nailed down. He and Griselda seem to think fairly well of each other, and she even loans him dough when he mentions that he is not holding very much. And moreover, she does this in such a way as it makes clear that she is very surprised if she gets it back. The following morning, Griselda is showing Ferdie around Pavis, and I'm enjoying the sun up against the wall of the trade temple when they come to take in the big temples in Founders Market. Just as they are passing the temple of the air gods, there is a flicking noise, and a throwing dagger is sticking out of the ground between them. I wish to say that I seldom see a quicker piece of work than they put on then, for they are back to back with weapons out in a moment. But there's nothing to be seen except a doll in the doorway of the temple, who is laughing fit to bust. I ought to know it'll be you, Belladonna, cries Griselda in seeming disgust. What wind blows you here? And Ferdie voices similar sentiments as they put up their weapons and go over to meet her. But it's plain that in fact they're quite tickled to see the doll, who is tall and limber with a long bony face and a pleasant enough expression, though she looks at me quite sternly when I wander over to listen in. Who is this jerk? She says, but Griselda says, oh, he does not mean anything. Tell us why you're here, Bella. The doll looks solemn. I hear Rory meets a misfortune here, she says, and as I am in Paringstone, I figure I will come over and investigate. Though if I know they are so down on Orlanthe here, and that I will have to pay just to get in, I may think twice about the proposition. Just a bit low on dough just now. Griselda seems to sigh a little and says, oh, it's okay, Bella. I will stake you. As for Rory, I take care of that a while ago. Oh, well, you must tell me about it, says Belladonna. And since I know this story very well by now, I leave them there. That afternoon there is word of a caravan coming in, and I go along to the gate to watch. And just as I get there, Griselda and Ferdie and Belladonna amble up. Most of the caravan comes through, and then we hear this racket. And there's some old guy yelling that he never pays anything to enter Pavis in the old days, and it is a scandalous imposition. Griselda closes her eyes for a moment and says, oh no, then marches off to the gate, and the others follow. There is this big old guy wearing pretty fair armour and carrying a great big sword over his one shoulder, waving his fist at the clerk, and the guards are looking nervous. Belladonna cries, Father! And Ferdie says, sounding very exasperated, you are supposed to be retired, Uncle Brand. And they move in to try to calm him down and edge him off while Griselda squares the clerk and the guards. They get him to sign his form, and as he comes away, he's saying to Griselda, well, your father allows he is too old to be travelling at this time of year, and maybe he is right at that. But I feel something must be done for the sake of our family honour, and I'm glad to see that you youngsters feel the same way. Do you get a line on Roderick's killers yet? Uncle Brand, says Griselda, very patient, I settled this matter already, and the best thing you can do is head back home. I'm surprised Aunt Gunvera lets you come. He says, I will go when I'm good and ready. So you settle it, eh? I hope that means that what it ought to mean. You can bet on it, says Griselda, rather sharp, and their eyes meet. And I can see that though his hair grey, they have the same look in it that Griselda can put on. And though it is a sunny day, I feel very cold all of a sudden. Belladonna and Ferdie are also looking fierce, and for a moment it's like I'm looking at a bunch of wolves at least. And I get to wonder if Griselda's family are all ogres or werewolves in disguise. Then Uncle Brown laughs a little and says, do you make anything along the way? My purse will blow away in a high wind, there's so little in it. Expenses are going up terribly since I am last in these parts. Griselda groans and casts her eyes to heaven, while the others laugh. Trust Grizzy for that, says Ferdie. She is always holding something. Well, let us get somewhere I can sit down and rest my old bones and cut the dust out of my throat, says Uncle Brand. I wonder if any of the dives I am knowing once are still operating. Well, this is quite a situation to be sure. With one after another of Griselda's relatives coming out of the woodwork, and some of the guys are wishing to bet on whether any more will show. But it seems the supply dries up. It is widely felt that this is just as well, for if they're like her Uncle Brand, whose full name it turns out to be Herobrand, Pavis will be stood on its head. He insists on touring the Pavis grog shops, one and all, and is most indignant that he hears of the curfew, and nothing will do him but to go down to Rowdy Joe Lowe's in Riverside, where the watch never go if they can help it, and Griselda goes with him. But Ferdie and Belladonna go to bed. When they're in Rowdy Joe Lowe's, it seems that Uncle Brand causes Snakefang grave social embarrassment by remembering him when he was so high, which unsettles him so that Uncle Brand is able to beat him at Mumblety Peg. But this is nothing to what a bunch of the local street gang, the Dolphins, are suffering. They come upon Griselda and her uncle as they're heading home, finally. And they're not recognising Griselda, but see an old man and a doll, and they figure that here is some easy game to hassle, as street gangs love to do on their own patch. Well, Uncle Brand only has his cudgel with him, and Griselda goes all easy with her little slicer. But it's reliably reported that dolphins who meet up with them are now retired, and furthermore, they will not jump a foot to a foot and a half anywhere you like if Griselda they will jump a foot to a foot and a half any way you like if Griselda or her uncle are mentioned in their presence. Well, none of them are hurt so very bad at that. But it seems that Uncle Brand no longer has much staying power, for he spends the next day in bed complaining of the booze they serve nowadays. And this is surely a relief to Griselda, who is all tuckered out from walking him around the town. Now this time the town is quiet as far as nefarious activities are concerned, for with patrols all over, many hard guys judge it best to keep their heads down, and they hole up in Riverside or Badside or even the Rebel. And Wolfhead is among those who do, so he does not get to meet any more of his relatives. But not long after Griselda's relatives come to town, it seems like a wave of crime is hitting Pavis, what with purses disappearing and break-ins and a little quiet mugging of rich guys' servants out on late errands, and though no harm is done and none of the scores are very large, the citizens start howling for protection. Now Constable George R. can put 2 and 2 together as well as anybody, and he starts eyeing Ferdie and Belladonna and even old Uncle Brand with suspicion, because somehow he gets the feeling that these characters are worth watching. This may be on general principles, because they are Griselda's relatives. Though Griselda is keeping her nose clean and is always in the public eye. Or it may be that he latches onto some rumours that are going around, such as that Ferdie is a well-known dip called Furtive Ferdie, or that Belladonna is sometimes called Blindfold Bella because she can open most any ordinary lock blindfolded. Or he may dig up something about Uncle Brown's activities in Pavis when he is younger. Anyway, there is soon plenty to watch, keeping an eye on Griselda and the rest, and not being too coy about it either. Well, all at once there is no more crime, or at least not so much, and Griselda's relatives are all on view with her, or anyway following some harmless pursuit such as eating or drinking or sleeping or pricing goods in honest parts of town, and the authorities cannot catch them out on a thing. But they do not seem to relax their vigilance much, figuring that it is only a matter of time. Sure enough, one night all three are eating with Griselda at Gio's, where all the members are in good standing, and then the relatives go off in different directions and at different times, making like they are attempting to avoid notice. This causes much excitement in law enforcement circles, and almost all the watch take out after them, and extra forces are thrown into pursuit. But it seems they go up and down and round until those trailing them are plumb worn out, and they do not do a thing, except that Belladonna marches into the air temple and does some loud praying to Orlanth, and Uncle Brand raises quite a beef in Bob's Bison Burgers because he claims to find a bit of bridle in his burger. But what comes as a great surprise is that while all this activity is going on, some daredevils knock over a big warehouse, which has no outside cover at this time because of all of the excitement, but only a few inside men who get bopped on the head. Most never know what hits them, and they certainly give no information on the miscreants, for these are masked and covered up, and it is all a great mystery. It is reported that some of the regular heavy lifters are peeved at the trespassing on their preserves, so it does not seem that the perpetrators are from an established mob, and there is even a whisper that they are trolls out of the rubble, but few believe this. Now the authorities find it hard to believe that Griselda's relatives have nothing to do with this, and so they are hauled in for a little light grilling, and their lodgings are searched, but nothing can be found amiss. So they politely ask to favour Pavis with their absence, preferably forever, and out they have to go. I will not care to be going out into the plains during dark season myself, but it does not seem to bother them. In fact, they seem to be in fine fettle. Griselda bids them a fond farewell, and then she returns to Liliana's and settles down into a usual chair with a big sigh of relief. Excuse me. Relatives, she says. You're glad to see them come, but even glad to see them go. There are eyebrows lifted at such an attitude, but it is speculated by some that Griselda feels her relatives are causing too much heat around town when she wishes for peace and quiet, and this seems to be confirmed by further comments of hers during the day, in which she refers to being plumb worn out chasing after her uncle and trying to keep him out of trouble, and fed up with staking the whole bunch. Once the evening sets in, the night watch, who are all trollkin, take over, and to the surprise of one on all, two of them drop in at Lina's and have words with Griselda, which sound rather brusque. Of course, they're speaking in dark tongue, which most of us cannot make head or tail of, but one guy at the back sits up, and this is the guy whose top knot Griselda once removes for doubting a word, and is called top knot by one and all for this reason. He knows some dark tongue, and clearly understands what is being said. And when the troll can depart, he bursts out, "Can this be true? Do you really think on your relatives?" Now at this there is dead silence throughout the joint. Griselda turns round to look at him, and Top Knot is edging back, looking as horrified as what pops out of his mouth as everyone else. But she just shrugs and says coolly, "Sure I do, but here is what is said. Constable George R. is not pleased that my tip-off turns out a frost, and refuses to pay what I am promised. So I'm out of pocket, and moreover, I must now watch my step. I may wind up in the slammer." Constable George R. cannot get out of his head that we are implicated in the warehouse job somehow. We all digest, and then someone asks, how are you out of pocket? Why, because I give as much as I'm expecting in reward to my relatives, says Griselda. You do not think I will think on them without telling them, surely? Gives them a bit of a stake, together with anything they may accumulate here. Well, there is much scratching of heads at this, and no one can figure out what in the Seven House Griselda is up to, and she must perceive this, because she begins laughing like anything. Finally, Lilina speaks up and says, do not keep us all guessing, Griselda, but cough up. Or maybe the word will go around that you are a fink, and without explanation. Griselda narrows her eyes a little at this, but once she can see she's on weak ground, and she knows it, for nobody has any use of finks, except for the authorities, and even then they seem to despise them, although they make use of them. Okay, she says, looking resigned and spreading her hands. But this possibly must not get to the wrong ears, or I am in bad trouble. And I will remind you that I have a number of friends around here who may not get pleasure from the thought that I am in bad trouble. Of course, we all know this is very true. What with Wolfhead and his gang, and Snakefang and his boys down at Rowdy Joe Lowe's, and Churchyard the Quick and his band of Trollkin runaways, who are on good terms with Griselda, and maybe Jarvis Gann and other trolls in the revel, and who knows what else. So we all swear blind not to let the story get to the wrong ears. And I advise you to do the same. It all comes of Uncle Brand showing up, she says. He's got a rascal when he's younger, and coming out of retirement is bringing back old memories for him. He feels the authorities do not treat him with sufficient respect, and aims to get even. So he puts Ferdie and Bella up to a few little escapades. Not that they are needing much encouragement, and I'm nearly going crazy, because I know that it is only a matter of time before they are nailed. And I don't ought to see them nailed. Uncle Brand cannot see things that things are a lot tighter now in Pavis under the Lunas, and he's determined to continue whatever I say. So to save them from themselves, I tell Constable George R. that if an eye is kept on my relatives, it may lead to something big, and they have to pull their horns in. But I have my own plan, and make contacts with, I will not say who, and suggest they make use of any opportunities that may occur while the watch is chasing around after my relatives. This suggestion is pleasing to my contacts, and they promise a percentage if all goes well, and I bring my relatives in on it, though, considering what they cost me in dough and lost sleep, I will be justified in keeping it all. Of course, Constable Jojo thinks my relatives are involved in the warehouse job, and hopes to find incriminating evidence. But there's nothing to be found, for the payoff is not organised that way. But it's just like old times for Uncle Brand to be hauled in for questioning over a big job, and it sets him up wonderfully, while Ferdie and Bella don't mind, as they figure they will come out ahead and have confidence in my assurances. It all comes out like a figure. You can still get a pretty fair shake from the Pavis judge in this town, whatever the Lunas feel about it, and leaving town means nothing to them. But you're not worried about for the safety of your relatives that are out in the wilds in dark season? Asked Top Knot. Griselda grins. I will be worried, more worried, for the health of anything that they meet that tries to mess with them, unless it is a hungry giant, she says. We are trained to take care of ourselves in the family. It's just so tough that my brother Rory is a slow learner. Okay, well that's story number 5. Story number 6 will be the Great Chart Caper, and I hope you will come back to listen to that next time. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed All of the Family, and perhaps you are even reading along. If you have any comments or feedback, please post below. Okay, and let me know what you think and whether you're listening. Thank you very much, and good night.